Today I bring you guys 5 tips that have improved my gameplay, allowed me to drop more kills, and ultimately gonna win more engagements within each fight. Guys, I dropped 39 kills with the TAC 56 and the Baz P and absolutely slay in this solo quads gameplay. And hopefully I can give you guys a little more insight into what goes on in a high tier player's brain as they process the information and make decisions. One of the first things that goes through my head as I enter a game of Vondel is kind of knowing what the flight pattern is going to look like, what POIs or places of interest will be occupied based off that flight pattern. You want to have about 2 to 3 hot drops at any given time that you can drop and know where the crates are dropped or where the crates spawn, the infrastructure of the buildings that you're going to be working around, and ultimately if you die early, somewhere where you can drop that's still in the fight but not necessarily in the heat of it, so that you can regain properly. So as you guys see here, I hear footsteps. I'm not pushing down. This is solo quad, so I have to think smartly here. I have to kind of weigh out the situation, but nonetheless I'm going to play this really smart here. This is solo quads, and this building doesn't have a lot of playability with the long hallways and the lack of objects to really get in and out quickly of the building.
What the dog doing?
I'm trying to play my best here to just be prepared for stackers, and this is usually something that really slows a player's gameplay down, is stacking. And so you just kind of want to generally know, hey, this is solo quads, this is something I'm going to be dealing with. People tend to stack, and so when you're positioning, when you're getting in engagements, you want to just be aware of that, right? You don't want to leave yourself open to 2 or 3 people shooting you at once. So this is typically what you would want to do in this situation. Instead of going for the thirst, you want to count it out, because if I'm playing solo quads, I just thirsted 1, I knock 2, I knock 3. Now we know if we count, there's still 1 more alive, and so with that information, I should assume that if someone does self-res, he's going to be one shot. That's an easy spray transfer. I should be worried about the 4th player, and if he doesn't show himself, if I don't have any information within 2 or 3 seconds, then I can go for the thirst. But to go for the thirst there in that situation, I wasn't counting out properly, and that's why ultimately this happened. Now I do get a little lucky here. I think that they assume also it's squads, and so I do get a little blessed to be able to get away there, get the self-res off. You got to know when to engage and when not to engage. So this is a prime example of, I should have been thirsted, I didn't. Now instead of egoing them again or trying to, wipe the team, let me take a step back, let me take a breather, disengage, find some shields, find some ammo, assess the situation, and then I can go from there.
What is this? Solo quads? Yeah, right now?
Enemy UAV overhead.
It's quads, right? Feels like quads.
So yeah, one of the most important things, besides being aggressive, besides pushing people, besides constantly looking for the fight, is knowing when to disengage, or when you do get wiped and you come back, being able to regain quickly. What this looks like is knowing, based off where people are at currently, where could I land that will get me a decent SMG or a decent AR and get me right back in the fight.
Fuck, did I just hear a fart or something?
You're gonna hear gunshots a lot, and those gunshots most of the time our brains disregard. But it's very important to know the direction of those gunshots so that when it's time for you to rotate, you know the general direction in which you want to move. This is gonna help you save time while the lobby starts to die out. This is gonna help you get more kills within each game and ultimately put you in positions to be able to get those high kill games.
Hostiles dropping into the the area. Watch the skies. Hunt down the rest of them. Get hunting. Use your tap map to hunt down the rest of them.
What the hell is going on?
Them down.
Key positioning is definitely going to be an important thing, whether it's multiple loadouts dropping in a prime location, positioning yourself versus pushing a team. You kind of want to know when and when not to push, like I said earlier, and part of what I said earlier about regaining will play into your positioning, right? Having the discipline, knowing when to push a team, knowing when not to push a team. Ultimately, if you have a power position or a high ground and you see loadouts, you see people flying in, you see red dots, these are all information that you need to take in so that you know, hey, you know what? I'm in a prime location right now. I don't need to push. I don't need to push one or two people to expose myself to the rest of the teams, right? And this is very important, and this is a common mistake that a lot of players make when they gain momentum. 15, 20 kills with 40 up. One of the most common problems that people will make, or common mistakes that people will make, is that they get over aggressive, they get tunnel vision, and they let a few team wipes get to their head. What this will cause is basically losing momentum, pushing one or two kills, and losing all your loadouts, having to re-rotate and regain, ultimately slowing you down and capping you on how many kills you can drop in a game. And this kind of ties into the early rotations, right? This is understanding the flight path, understanding where teams are going to, what buildings would be occupied based off those flight paths. When you regain and you're rotating back to a place of interest, you know, you're hearing teams fight, and you just keep this information, you know, in the back of your head so that when you rotate, when you get into that area, you relatively know, hey, there could be people on top of these buildings, there could be people here, there could be people there. This really helps you make better decisions and ultimately will get you higher kill games. One thing I've noticed in my experience when it comes to getting high kill games is, you know, understanding sometimes zone pulls go your way, sometimes they don't. Just kind of understanding the dynamic of zone pulls and how they can pull towards or against you. It's just always good to have an understanding and keep that in the back of your head that this is going to be a late game factor. Knowing when to be aggro, knowing when to play passive. If you're controversially on the high ground and you see people rotating, it's probably best not to push that team,
What are you even doing?
right?
Looking at
1 or
there?
2, 3 kills is not worth being out of position, getting caught, and losing out on all the other kills. Playing passive can definitely be a detriment when you're not in a high kill stance, so it's just knowing the difference when and when not to, based off your pacing, based off the momentum of the game, and all these factors you kind of have to play into key in real time to make the correct decision. So ultimately, just based on the kill count, based on your momentum, based on the players in the lobby and the zone pool, all these factors are going to ultimately help you decide whether you're going to be playing a passive end game or you're going to be playing an aggressive end game. Being conscious of late game high ground or places of interest, instead of chasing kills, knowing when you're in power position to be disciplined and be patient. Ultimately knowing that teams will be in the open, teams will be exposed, and they're easy kills, as opposed to you forcing a fight because you're impatient, you're not disciplined. You feel like players are dropping and you want to drop that high kill game. It's very common that when you want to drop the high kill game, typically players tend to try to speed their play up, thinking it's going to help them get more kills. But the detriment there is that you end up tunnel visioning and putting yourself in situations that if you were disciplined and calm, you would have probably determined it was not safe, not worth losing the game over. And this is going to help you make those hard decisions to not push a team, to stay in position for another minute until the zone pulls. These are what makes a great player. These are what makes the high kill games, and this is what ultimately separates an average player from a great player. So as you guys are going to see here multiple times, I'm on the regain. This is definitely something that even 39 kills, I still dropped 39 kills. And if you guys look at how much I regained, that should show you I probably could have dropped 50 plus here. You know, when it's early game, your replayability looks a lot different than your late game, right? What does it look like when you die early game? You can pretty much land wherever you want. You can restart your pace at your own liking. When it's late game, if you're trying to get those high kill games, the window closes, or the window is a lot smaller, right? But due to me being able to regain quickly, I still was able to drop 39 kills. And so what that looks like is the beginning gameplay ability to the end gameplay ability is totally different when it comes to decision making, late game rotations, being able to regain properly. And that's what you're going to see here in this video, is that ultimately my early game regains are a lot calmer than my late game regains. I just get straight into it. One, because the zone's small, but two, because I know if I don't get back into the fight here shortly, it's just going to be another mediocre game. So. Essentially, once I get this roof here, I don't move, right? Once I get this roof, it becomes something where, okay, I know I have this POI. I don't know where the zone is going to pull, but if it does pull here, it's going to be a great late game. So I'm gambling that this late game pull is going to be somewhere near me. I don't rotate early, and as you guys can see, I play the rooftop, I play positioning. I never expose myself too much here late game, allowing for myself to get the easy picks without giving any opponent an opportunity to knock me. And so you'll see here people are going to start flying in, and I'm just going to be going back and forth based on audio cues, based on red dots, based on certain information. I'm going to be able to just go back and forth from these rooftops and ultimately get free picks. So yeah, as you guys see here, once I realized that this is going to be a late game zone, I played this rooftop pretty much to perfection. PA goes in, I have a golden gas mask. I'm able to tank the storm a little bit, avoid the PA, and ultimately keep the high ground. And this is going to be a really important position here for me late game. Ultimately, just understanding that this is going to be the POI. This is the place of interest late game. This is the best rotation that I could have had. Again, it always comes down to a little bit of a gamble with the zone pool, but I played my rooftops accordingly. I played the high ground perfectly. I'm able to use my gas mask to my advantage, buy myself a little bit of time, and ultimately the zone pulls back my way. Luck is in my favor. And as you guys can see here, I never give up high ground once, and I'm able to still get all the kills here. So I'm giving myself the maximum playability. I'm giving myself maximum exposure to the players with minimal exposure to being killed, if that makes sense. So maximum exposure to engagements with minimal exposure to getting shot or them hitting my shields without me being in a place to self-res or have some type of playability. So the word is playability. You want to leave yourself room to be able to make a play. You put yourself with your back against the wall, well, unfortunately, the only play you can do is move forward, right? And so being conscious of this, knowing your surroundings, knowing what buildings, the infrastructure of the buildings, kind of going back to the beginning to understanding what buildings, infrastructures can do what, rotations, outplayability. This is very, very important for when it comes to zone pools, when it comes to late game. You don't have to think about what play you have to make. Based on the area you're at on the map, you're going to know what you can do, and this is ultimately going to help you stay 2 or 3 steps ahead of the average player. What we really see here in this gameplay is an example of discipline, patience, good decision making, good rotations, obviously great centering, great shots, good movement, right? So these are all things that you're gonna have to work on. But the most important thing I want you guys to take away from this is the pacing is very important, but the regainability. You're not gonna win 100% of your engagements. You're not gonna win every fight. And unless you're cheating, you're not always going to know where everyone's at. So understanding audio cues, information, flight path, these are all beginning things that will help you when you do die in rebirth and have to come back. You start to really, when you do die in rebirth and have to come back, you really start to get better at, okay, there was a team market, but if I land south of market, I could get a gun and it'll only take me 10-15 seconds to get right back into the fight. That allows you to keep your momentum, keep your pacing, but also play it to where you get your revive timer back. You're playing it, within your realm of comfortability. And ultimately, what you guys will notice is that a lot more high kill games will be presented. A lot more opportunities for great games will be presented because you're going to put yourself in the right environment. And when it doesn't go your way, as you guys can see here in this gameplay, it did not start out hot. I was still able to pick up that momentum because of the regain, because of the positioning, because of the decision making. So as you guys are trying to get better and drop bombs, these are some of the things you want to be thinking about. These are what high tier players think about, and it will become second nature as you continue to practice.